Hello everyone, welcome to Wei and Kathy Show. I'm your host Wei Fang, and today's we'll be talking about what happened after Nancy Pelosi left Taiwan, and actually in the East Asia now it's a big turbulence there. Okay, what happened is that after Nancy Pelosi left Taiwan, and today she's in Japan. Okay, but because of her visit and also because of the inaction by the CCP. Compared to his high-tone rhetoric that they won't tolerate her visit, they will take decisive effort, and Pelosi is playing with the fire, and we definitely will make her pay, and so on and so forth. But she stayed in Taipei for 19 hours, 20 hours actually, and then just casually, easily, and left Taiwan, and the CCP did not do a thing. Why? Because they did not prepare for that. They were just threatening and intimidating. They did not prepare, real action. So, which disappointed the 50 cents, okay, or the little pink heart, if you know what I mean, if you watch my program before. So those are the party's loyalists, okay, who got misled by the party, believing that China will show its, power against the U.S., okay, in parallel to U.S. So, but Pelosi came and went, and there's nothing they did. So they were really, really upset. So CCP realized that. So yesterday, they start to take action. So what did they do? They designate 6 regions as the military drill region around the Taiwan island, okay? And then they file 11 missiles, short-range missiles. Actually, this is by the Taiwan government, but the CCP said they filed 16 missiles, and then 4 of them actually flew above Taipei, the capital of Taiwan, and then 5 of them hit the Japan's exclusive economic region. Okay, it's called a EEZ. Okay, exclusive economic zones. And then, of course, the Prime Minister of Japan and the Foreign Minister of Japan and the Defense Minister of Japan all came out to protest and then calling CCP to stop that kind of action right away. So why did they, fire the missile into Japan's, sea territory? Actually, it's not really the Japan's sea territory. Rather, it's called it's 200 200 miles from the Japan coastal line. And those are defined by the International Convention as the exclusive economic zone. But apparently, CCP tried to ask Japan to stay off. In Chinese, we call, if you throw a stone into the water, it's going to create thousands of ripples, right? But with this 16 missiles hitting the sea around Taiwan, the ripple will be all across the Pacific Ocean, apparently. So now CCP is spreading all the word, mainly in China, okay? Because outside of China, that propaganda cannot go much, too much, do not have too many miles to go. But in China, they've been spreading, saying that, and this is our drill of military blockade of Taiwan. And then Pelosi's visit Taiwan give us a excuse and the reason to regularly block Taiwan. And so we are taking the high ground now because Taiwan is an island that depends on having its energy, and the trade all depends on the outside world. If we can block Taiwan for 1 week, just 1 week, they will lose their supply of natural gas because Taiwan is mainly supplied by the petroleum and the natural gas. If they block them for 2 to 3 months, the economy will basically collapse. Okay, so that kind of rhetoric really just re-energized the 50 cents again. So today, this is what I'll be analyze. So I want to say the other side of this matter. I mean, this around the Taiwan military drills is when CCP virtually come to the face of Taiwan, and even fire the missile into the water of Japan. And what's the other consequence that this could trigger that the CCP may not, fully realize, or they are not willing to realize. Actually, in Japan, there has always been a force or an idea to recover Japan as a normal country, including its normal defense force. And and this force actually is representing person is former President Abe, who was assassinated a few days ago. Okay, from his grandfather, and his name is An Xingjie. I don't know what's the English name, and he was the prime minister in the 1980s. But they have always been the minority, okay? And the people of Japan are not so interested in it. So our peace constitution seems to be working pretty well. Why bother, recover, just repeal the peace constitution and rearm ourselves? But this year, three things happened that triggered the possible change of Japan. The first is the breakout of the Ukraine-Russian war, and then this really put Japan triggered Japan to think it over. Okay, what about our national security? The end result is the government came to a consensus. The government, I mean the administration and the Japan's Congress, that they will redouble the military spending. Okay, this is about $50 billion a year. And then, the second thing is the Abe is being assassinated. All right, and actually his high reputation, and he's basically losing his life on the job, and motivate his party, the ruling party. Okay, it's called Democratic 自民党, Independent and Democratic Party, to come up and just carry out his carry out his will and finish what he wished for. The third thing is what just happened yesterday. CCP fired a missile into the water of Japan, and then they sent another drone into a Japan city, and then after that, so Japan was asking China, saying that why did you do that? Why did you fire the missile into our EEZ, exclusive economic zone? Well, the spokesperson of the Chinese government is saying that we don't recognize that. Okay, we don't recognize you have such EEZ. So my belief is these three things: Ukraine-Russia war, and the Abe is being assassinated, and this missile incident is enough to wake up Japan and wake up its potential military power. If Japan really abolished the peace constitution and rearm itself, then for a country like Taiwan, they don't have to count on U.S. military running thousands of miles from Hawaii to support Taiwan. It usually takes a few days. And because the closest Japanese island is only like 80 miles from Taiwan. So, and the most recent place where Japan has a military base is only like 350 miles. So it's close to Taipei compared to where Shanghai close to Taipei. So a fighter jet can only take 20 minutes to arrive at Taiwan. So it's like Taiwan suddenly have a very powerful neighbor, and they're just there and just waiting. And Prime Minister Abe said if there's something happen in Taiwan Strait, then it's equivalent to something happened to Japan. So that kind of a statement is no longer just an idea. It's something that really means consequence. So that's one thing. The second thing is let's talk about America. The White House and the State Department today both issue statement and then criticize the military drill around Taiwan by the CCP. And then, but what I want to tell you is something else. And I want to get your opinion, okay, how you think about that. Actually, just 3 days before Nancy Pelosi left the U.S. for Taiwan, for Asia, on the July 29th, a Republican congresswoman, and her name is Michelle Steele, and a Democrat congressman, his name is of California too, his name is Jimmy Panetta. And they jointly, they co-sponsor a law which is called the Taiwan Democracy Defense Land Lease Act. Land Lease Act, right? So, are you familiar with that? So let's just back off. Let's dial back 80 years to talk about the Land Lease Act that the U.S. has for Great Britain and the Soviet Union back then during the Second World War. And as you recall, in the beginning of the Second World War, and Hitler took the whole continent, European continent, and UK, so the Great Britain was just holding up there, right, with the England, if you remember, the England the air war. And finally, the Great Britain used up all their weapons and all their ammos, and then after that, what can they do? They buy from U.S., they bought from U.S., but finally, they used up the money to buy. So what can they do? At that time, U.S. has a law called the Neutrality Act, preventing U.S. from providing or selling weapons to its European allies. So what can they do? The then Congress passed something very innovative called the Land-Lease Act. So supply all the military and materials to its allies in Europe, and in the matter of just lease, not give, okay, not sell, just lease. So this conformed to the Neutrality Act of then time, and also can help the allies. So this is why the allies has virtually unlimited military resource from the U.S. during the Second World War. And of course, after the war's over, well, it's not returned. U.S. does not ask for return except some equipment, not just not asking for return. U.S. further through the Marshall Plan and gave another $13 billion to the Europe to rebuild Europe, and the $13 billion at that time is equivalent to like $130 billion. So, but that's something 80 years ago, right? So there's another Land-Lease Act, which is just a few months ago, okay, on the January 19th, and somebody in the Congress, and come up with this new law called the Ukraine Land-Lease Act. So at that time, the war has not happened yet. The Russian army was just staging there at the border, and so they are not invaded yet. So because of that, the act did not move on, did not move. But after the war really happened starting on February 23rd, very quickly, the law was passed. And then now Ukraine, every few days, they got another round of military aid from the U.S. And that's because of the Ukraine Land-Lease Act. So now Ukraine already got almost $9 billion, okay, military supply. So basically, the Land-Lease Act has become a policy, a special policy for the U.S. to support its ally. So if Taiwan got this Land-Lease Act, then it means it would got potentially get unreserved support in military weapon equipment from the U.S. And actually, Taiwan's annual military budget is only like less than $9 billion, because it's a very small country, only 23 million people, and for the military equipment, for the military budget, they take things out of their, take money out of their pocket, so they don't have enough money, so they don't have enough as a big military budget to fend off the CCP. But if this Land-Lease Act is passed, then Taiwan would have will be fully armed by the U.S. So could this be passed? It's difficult at this time, because why the U.S. want to do this? It's our money, right? It's a big favor. It's a big thing, all right? However, if there's a very effective helper, then it could pass. And who's that helper? It's called the Chinese Communist Party, right? So if a Chinese government continue carry on this kind of around the island drills, and keep firing missiles over the air of Taiwan, and hitting Japan's seas, and hitting the seawater around Taiwan, what do you think? Do you think our Congress could pass this Taiwan Democracy Protection Lease and Land and Lease Act? So basically, it is all tied up with what CCP does, right? And if CCP is very strong and very threatening, and very, very disturbing to the regional security, I believe that our Congress will pass this, especially a House led by the Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, who was just We're just there. And then next, I want to talk about some concept, okay? And this is called the One China policy, because Chinese government keeps saying that U.S. is breaking its promise that they gave in the three joint communiques, right? Communiques, that's the word. So the three joint statement of the foreign relationship between the U.S. and China. And then, but the U.S. has never said anything, okay? So what is this One China principle? Basically 3 sentences. Let me read it to you. Because Chinese government say this all the time, everywhere, to everybody and anybody. It says there's only one China in this world, first sentence. Taiwan is part of China. The third is the government of the People's Republic of China is the only legal representative of China. So, see, very complete 3 sentences, clearly define that Taiwan belongs to China, and the PRC is the legal representative of China. Okay, so however, as China is pushing, promoting, and touting this so-called China principle, in the last 40 years, U.S. pretty much did not say a thing. Why? Because they probably very gentlemen. They feel that since China is so attached to this, maybe they don't want to hurt their emotion. So they didn't say anything. However, America, okay, U.S., United States never agreed to these 3 sentences. So the very relationship between Taiwan and China was specified clearly in one of the 3 communiques that reached between these two countries, China and the U.S. Okay, let me just read it to you. There are 2 sentences. One sentence that defines the relationship of Taiwan with China is this: the United States of America recognizes the government of the People's Republic of China as the sole legal government of China. All right, so we talked about that earlier. Okay, remember the word recognize. Another sentence said, the government of the United States of America acknowledges the Chinese position that there is but one China and Taiwan is part of China. All right? As you are a native speaker, right? You understand the difference. The first one saying that the U.S. recognize PRC as the sole legal government of China. The second, it says the U.S. acknowledged the Chinese position that there is but one China and Taiwan is part of China. So the second sentence merely say, we got you. We know what's your position. That's it. Did not say we accept it, we endorse it, we agree to it, and we support it. This is just plain language, plain English. Just think about that. Taiwan has been an ally of the U.S. At the time of this, the U.S. and China established a foreign relationship. Okay, the reason why U.S. want that foreign relationship is to resist the Soviet Union's expansion. But by doing that, U.S. never wanted to just completely destroy or sell out Taiwan. Okay, even after the foreign relationship establishment, U.S. turned around and went to Taiwan and gave 6 promises to Taiwan government. Okay, pretty much recognizing and protecting the sovereignty of Taiwan, of the PRC over Taiwan. I'm sorry, not the PRC, the sovereignty of the Republic of China over Taiwan. Okay, so one is recognized, another is acknowledged, but CCP, just like they don't understand English, they just treat both things as recognized. So they came up with these 3 things. There's only one China in the world. Taiwan is part of China, and the PRC is the legal government of China. And then they use these 3 sentences. They just say it everywhere, anywhere, to everyone and anyone. So in such a way, in the past 40 years, they pretty much just they just completely suffocate the breathing space of Taiwan in terms of foreign relationship. But over these 40 years, U.S. virtually did not say a thing. Why? Because they are too tolerant. They think since they're so attached to it, they let it be. But the U.S. never signed something like that with China, okay? And then they don't recognize so, because U.S. actually in the other part of this three joint communiques, U.S. stated that the relationship between China and Taiwan is for all Chinese on both sides of the Taiwan Strait to resolve. Basically, it's for you to resolve it. We don't want to interfere, okay? But the U.S. never said Taiwan is part of China. But now Chinese government is simply saying that you said so. They treat this as a matter of the fact. And they hold this, they just artificially, they twist the meaning of the communiques and then just artificially fabricate that three sentences and treat this as agreed upon policy of the U.S. and China and sell it everywhere. So that's what they do. So they're just, cronies. And they're just dishonest person. And comparatively, I don't know, what do you think? Okay, U.S. is two gentlemen, okay? They feel that, again, we don't want to hurt you. So if you want to say this, just say it. But time goes by, when it comes to today, CCP has grown to be so powerful, not only number two, they want to be number one. They want to change the world order. They want to come to the U.S. They want to take over this country. They want to take over the world. At this time, enough is enough for the U.S. government. So now the U.S. government start to clarify, start to insist on the original meaning of the three joint communiques, and start to take back take back, basically just give the original meaning, all right? So basically over the past 4 decades, no administration of the United States ever recognized that Taiwan is part of China, but still, that's something that China is still insisting on. So that's the legal base of their objecting Nancy Pelosi's visiting China, because they say you are hurting, you are breaking, you are violating this one China principle. But to the U.S., it does not. No, we never said Taiwan is part of China. This is for you both parties to resolve it. So before then, we merely acknowledged your position, your thought, your opinion. And that's that. Okay, so the last story I want to tell you, which actually do not have enough time or the details, is there's a chairman of a board, an honorary chairman of a board of a big silicon company in Taiwan, and his name is Cao Xingcheng. He donated $1 billion yesterday, after seeing, after Nancy Pelosi visited, and after the CCP coming in and circled the island with their military, the battlefield with their, battleship and destroyers, and then firing the missile, he donated $1 billion worth of money to the national security of Taiwan. So I listened to his speech, very moving and very, very incisive, very, very to the point. Okay, he basically said China is not a normal. He said China is a scoundrel that's dressed in the in the form of a nation. It's not a legal nation. They just cheat people. They just bully people. They are not a normal human beings. That's what he said. And as for his $1 billion, what can that be used for? He said, well, if we buy a weapon, there will be only a very little weapon we can buy. He said, I want this money to be used to defeat the propaganda of the CCP against the island. So, well, in Chinese, we have a word called, say, 自助者天助之. The God only help people who help himself. I think in the Western culture, probably there's a similar, idiom like this. But indeed, that's what I believe in. And this is chairman of the board of this company, and is basically just calling all Taiwanese to rise up. Don't be weak. Support ourselves. And as they do so, the God will support Taiwan. Maybe in the form of through the revitalization, rejuvenization of Japan, and or in the form of the Land Lease Act from the U.S. Do you support that? That's what I want to know, okay? Do you support, do you support the Land Lease Act for Taiwan? I want to get your idea there, and because I just want to know, given the situation, do you care enough to support your, to ask your representative to support Taiwan that way? Okay, Jeff Leopard, you said, why would anyone believe that Pelosi had the best interest of U.S. in mind? Okay, and what do you mean? And Scotty, you said, I'm no fan of Pelosi, but she did the right thing. Yeah, I think I understand your point. And I think on this matter, yes, she did the right thing, because going there and stand against the CCP, it does take some, courage. And Dubotar, he said she may be a terrible person, but in this, she was great. And he also said, I'm very happy Pelosi went and reconfirmed America's commitment. All right. And the book said, hi, book. And Dubotar, you also said, I support the Land Lease Act. I believe Congress will pass it. Bipartisan support is for Taiwan. Okay, yeah, thank you for providing your feedback. But it may cost us, right? If it costs like $10 billion, I'm willing to do so. But given that, if there's really a war, right, for us to go there, for the U.S., for our navies to go there and engage in the war, that's probably cost more than $10 billion. Yeah, but arming Taiwan with $10 billion probably is the cheapest way, because it will, just scare China off, scare the CCP off, not come across the red line. Well, Dacicus, you wrote that things do seems to be getting more and more dangerous in the world. Yes, I think that's true. That's true. So it may be a turbulent time ahead of us, but still, in the U.S. and in China and elsewhere in the world. But I think for faithful people, just hang on to our faith, and we will buckle up or sail through all this. All right, thank you very much for staying with Wei this tonight, and I hope you like the information that I gave to you, because it's a very big deal in Asia, and it does have to do with a lot with the U.S. And I just want to give you this background. And okay, thank you very much. Take care. I'll see you tomorrow. Not tomorrow. I'm sorry, on Monday. Have a good weekend.